Hi everyone, and welcome to the next lesson on our grade 1 piece Elenke. Today we are looking at bars 19 to 26, which you should be able to see on the screen now. So we are sort of powering on through, and once we've done this section, we've covered pretty much all of the piece apart from a couple of bars which we'll look at in next lesson. So the music is on the screen here. To start off with, we're going to chunk it down even more as we've been doing in the past. And we're just going to look at the trickiest bars because outside of these green boxes, you'll notice that the notes are all open strings and they're all crotchets, they're all tars. So actually these 4 bars here are really straightforward. We don't really need to look at them in too much detail at all. It's the stuff within the green box that gives us a little bit more of a challenge. So looking at this green box, I'm just going to give you 2 seconds to figure out what the Kadai sound would be for this first green box here. And of course it's just T's all the way through. They're all quavers. So let's just try and say that together after 2. 1, 2. T, 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 T. Easy enough. And as before, this green box just repeats itself down here. So we're doing double the work in half the amount of time. So the next challenge is to figure out what the notes themselves are. Now you should be able to recognise that the notes happening just before the green box are our open E. Therefore, the first note that we're looking at is an E. So can you just try and take 10 seconds to figure out what the notes would be for the whole of this green box, please? Off you go. And hopefully at this point in time, we're getting used to, instead of having to work out each individual note, we can kind of recognise the patterns. If we know we're starting on an E, we can see that this is going down 1, and if we imagine that on the violin, we should be able to recognise that that means it's a D, and then it's going down 1 again, which we should be able to recognise means it's a C. Anyway, I'll put all the notes on and you can see how many you got right. So it is, of course, E, D, C, E, D, C, B, D. It's what we call a sequence. It's the same pattern of notes, but just down a note. So we get one pattern of notes here, E, D, C, E, and then it's repeated, but it shifts down a note to D, C, B, D. Which is all well and good, but we need to know how we would approach playing these notes. So can you now try and figure out what the numbers would be for this whole green box, please? Okay, and let's see if we agree with one another. So we've got 0, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3. Now you will notice that I've got a different number here for the same note. This note here and this note here are both an E, and we're used to playing this on an open E string. But for the second one, for this note here, I've actually put a 4, and the composer's put a 4 above the note as well, so it's absolutely certain that that's what they want. If you were doing the E natural minor scale, we did a little bit of work of that on that in that as well, and with the arpeggio actually, so that we're used to hopefully playing our 4th finger, our pinky finger, on the A string to make the same note as an open E. It's the same note, exactly the same note. Okay. The challenge is that the first one is an open E. So in that first bar, we have to go 0, 3, 2, 4. So it is a bit of a challenge, okay? Let me just show you what that green box sounds like before we go into the nitty-gritty. And I want you to say the numbers now that I've explained what they mean while I play it. So here we go. After 2, 1 and 2. 0, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3. Let's just try that one more time. 1 and 2. 0, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3. Okay, so let's try and look at this together. I want you to get your violins, and I want us to just look at the very first 4 notes here, and we're just going to try and play them straight away. It's separate bows, but we're going to use long bows for them so we can really focus on what we're meant to be doing. So it's going to go like this: open E, over to A3, then A2, then A4. I overshot it that time. It should be as though your 4th finger is just exactly the same distance up from the 3rd finger as our 3rd finger is from our 2nd finger. And as we've mentioned in the previous lessons, of course, our second finger is right next door to our first finger. Okay, so let's try that together and see if we can get used to it. So this sort of speed. Let's try it together. 1, 2. Very good. Remember that when you put your fourth finger down, you're just adding these 2 fingers. You don't just put your fourth finger down, you're adding all of the fingers up to and including the fourth finger. Let's try it again. 1, 2. Fantastic. Can we now try it using about half the length of the bow, a little bit faster like this? 1 and 2 and. Very good. Let's just isolate those last 2 notes, going from 2 to 4, but remembering that we're putting our third and fourth finger down together. I'll play a pattern, you play it first. I'm starting on my second finger, and I'm going to go like this. You. Me. You. Me. You. Me. You. Fantastic. Remember, if you're struggling, if you feel like your note that you're creating with your fourth finger just doesn't sound right, 2 things to do. Make sure your left elbow is brought forwards, and make sure your thumb is opposite your second finger and it's not all the way back there. Those 2 things will help just to make sure you put enough height to be able to tap your fingers down. Okay? And also just tap them all down anyway just before we start. Good. Now let's try and play the whole of that bar, so starting on the open E at that faster speed. So 1 and 2 and. 1 more time, go. Very good, well done. Now, if we look at the next bar, it's exactly the same pattern but starting on a lower note. So this time it's going to go 3, 2, 1, 3. Okay, let's try and do exactly the same approach. So we're going to use full bows. We're going to do it nice and slowly so we can focus on each note. So we're going to go 3, 2, 1, 3. Can we try that after 2? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3. Let's try that again. And 1, 2. Fantastic. Now let's try and do half the bow a little bit faster. So we're going to go 3, 2, 1, 3. Ready? Here we go. And 3, 2, 1, 3. 1 more time. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, 3. Very good. Okay. So now we just need to put those 2 bars together. So let's hear what it should sound like. 0, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3. That's what it should sound like, but to start off with, we're going to put a bit of a gap here just so we can catch our breath a little bit. So we're going to go like this. Wait, get ready, and just so we're breaking it down a little bit. Okay, try it with me. Starting where the spotlight is on an open E. After 2, 1 and 2 and. Stop, down to 3, go. Fantastic. Let's try exactly that same thing again from the spotlight. 1 and 2 and. 0, 3, 2, 4. Stop. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1, 3. Very good. Now let's try it with no gap. So straight through, starting where the spotlight is. 1 and 2 and. 0, 3, 2, 4. 3, 2, 1, 3. Let's try that again. See if you can catch up. 1 and 2 and. Excellent. Now let's try it a little bit faster. So we're going to go this sort of speed. Let's try it. Bow on the E string. 1, 2, 1 and 2. Really good. Now exactly the same practice tips apply here as we did in the scale and arpeggio. And that is that if you've got a passage that you need to get a bit quicker and you just aren't quite getting your fingers around it, the best thing to do is to practice it in rhythms. So we would do this. So we're going long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. And don't worry if it's not quite right, we'll try it a couple of times. Okay, so bow on the E string. You'll notice that even though I'm starting on an open E, I've already got my 3 fingers down on the A string so that they're hovering there and they're ready for the second note. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3. Not bad. Let's try exactly that again. This time I won't say the numbers. 1 and 2 and. Excellent. Then what we do is we reverse the rhythm. So instead of going long, short, we go short, long, like this. Let's give that a go. It's a little bit confusing, and I'm asking you to play something that you're not reading off the music, but trust me, it's a tried and tested method when we're trying to get a tricky passage a little bit quicker. Here we go. 1 and 2 and. Not bad. Let's try it again. Remember, it's short, long, 1 and 2 and. Short, long, 3, 2, 1, 3. Very, very good. And the idea is that now when we put it back to normal, it should just feel a little bit more easy. So here we go, get ready. This time this speed. 1, 2, here we go. One more time, here we go. Excellent, really good job. That's the trickiest part of this passage by far. Now when we try and put it into context, so we're now doing from here, as I said before, the notes either side of the green boxes are just open strings. So just have a listen, and I want you to point at the music as I play it and follow the notes along and have a listen to how it fits together. It goes like this. Okay, can we try one more time with me playing it, but this time I want you to say the numbers as I play them. So where it's an open string, I might actually just say the note. E, E, O, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, A, E, E, O, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, A, just so we're used to what they should be. Okay, so help me out here by saying the notes if it's an open string or the numbers for the tricky bar. Here we go, after 2, 1, 2. E, E, O, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, A, E, E, O, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, A. Excellent. Get your instruments ready. Let's see if we can give this a go together. You'll notice that when it's a crotchet, when it's a tar, I'm using the full length of the bow, and for the tricky bars where we've got the numbers written in, I'm using shorter bows, about half the length of the bow. Here we go. 1, 2, 1 and 2. E, E, O, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, A, onto the E. And then into rest position. Excellent, that is really, really good. What I want to do to finish off with is to, first of all, we're going to play that through without me saying anything, just to perform it, and then I'm going to very quickly show you the last little passage that we need to look at, so that next lesson we can just look at putting it all together as one whole performance. Okay, so here we go, instruments up, let's perform this section, starting on an open E. Have a quick look, make sure your fingers are hovering over the third finger over the A string, so it's ready for that bit. And here we go, let's perform it after 2. Ready? And 1, 2. And into rest position. Fantastic work, well done. So lots of little corners of you to practice, for you to practice on your own. Don't forget the tricks of playing it in rhythms so that we can get really familiar with it, and that will really help our dexterity. Okay, so let's look at the final section we've got to learn. Okay, so on the screen you'll see 2 different lines of music, one with a red caption and one with a green caption. It should look fairly familiar because actually, notes-wise, this is what we've already covered. This is why it's in the red caption, because we've already done it. So back at lesson 4, when we were looking at bars 11 to 18, the previous lesson, we looked at this part here, and I'll just quickly play it to you so you remember what it sounded like. It was where we looked at the slurs, and we were going like this. Well, the bit that we're looking at now, which is the very last part of the piece that we're yet to look at, is the notes are exactly the same, therefore the fingers are exactly the same. The only difference is that there aren't any slurs, so in some ways that actually makes it a bit easier because we don't have to worry about squeezing two notes into one bow. So it should sound like this. And then the other difference is that the very last note, we've got to play 2 notes at the same time, which is one of my favourite things to do on the violin because it gives a really fiery ending. And the 2 notes that we've got to play together are just the open strings, A and E. So at the very end, we do a down bow on our A, and then we have to just lower the bow slightly so that it crosses both the A and the E together on an up bow. And it means that we can end the piece with our bows up in the air, which always looks really impressive, I think. Okay, so let's just look first of all at those last 2 notes, and let's just experiment with doing a down bow on an A and an up bow on an A and an E. Okay, so what you should be doing is lowering your arm slightly so that your bow can hit both strings. Okay, let's try that together after 2. 1, 2, down, up. Good, and I want to see all the bows going up into the air, not throwing them up in the air, but lifting them off the string at the end so that it looks really impressive. Let's try that again. 1, 2, down, up. Excellent, then you can let the sound ring on. Now let's try and put it together with the previous bars. As I've said, the notes are exactly the same as the ones we've already looked at. The only difference is that it's separate bows. So listen to what it should sound like together. And that's it. Let's try that together, shall we? Where the spotlight is where we're going from. Here we go after 2. 1 and 2. Excellent. One final time. 1 and 2. And into rest position. Excellent work, well done. So the good news is, with these videos, these 3 videos on the pieces, we've now covered all of the notes for Elenke. So what I'd like you to do is to make sure that you are following the videos, lessons 3, 4 and 5, to make sure that you're really familiar with the different sections. And then the next lesson, we will look at how we can piece it all together and how we can make a real performance out of this grade 1 piece. Okay, thanks for joining me, happy practicing.